This is third video in monitoring series, and today we're going to talk about monitoring Windows containers with Prometheus monitoring system on Kubernetes. So what you see here is I have deployed Prometheus, so I'm monitoring a few endpoints, and on my Kubernetes dashboard I have Prometheus deployed. So to monitor Windows containers, first we need Windows Server. So what I have done is downloaded latest Insider build 17046 and installed it. And the last ingredient is monitoring agent that you can get in this repository called Sonar Docker. And this is example I'm going to run today and show how it works. So first of all, this is the sample in my Visual Studio Code. And if you look at the README, you see that I need to build the image. And then because my Windows container is outside Kubernetes, I don't have Kubernetes Windows node, I will register service in Kubernetes so Prometheus can discover it. So first, let's look what we have deployed on the Windows Insider server. So there is nothing in here. And what I'm going to do is simply to start building. And while it builds, I'm going to complete other steps and show you what it is. So the build script points to my Windows Server node where I have Docker running. And what I'm doing here is simply setting up the image. This would be the name of the image. This is the name of the container. Monitoring would be Prometheus, and then I'm copying config files for Prometheus and then starting the container. So on the Docker side, if you look at the Docker file, there is not much happening here. I'm getting insider container image, downloading monitoring agent, making sure that I'm adding config files for it. In the build script, I selected ones for Prometheus. And then I'm installing basic web server, creating IIS site, and then starting agent as Windows service. Then the step that we can certainly do now while it's building is to make sure that Prometheus can discover this container. So what happens is that if you look at Prometheus config file, the exporter is configured with port 5000. And then if you look at the build itself, the 5000 port is exposed as 8050 outside of the container. So what I need to do is register service in Kubernetes for exposed port, which is 8050. And to do so, I simply copy and paste. Okay, so we have the matrix service created. And what we need to do next is to see if Prometheus can see it. So we can go here, refresh Prometheus. And you see that two of my endpoints right now down. and then 8050 is also down because it's not responding, which means container is still building. So we can check where we're at, and we're still building. So we are approaching the last steps, so it's not too long before it will come. So if you want to switch from Prometheus to another time series database, you have two options, Accumuli and InfluxDB. And the most interesting part, if we look at Prometheus config, which is here, and see what's collected. So there are two sources for collection, as you see here. One is perfmon, which collects the counters, and then the second one is called Sonar. And this entry is for WMI, so we can collect event logs and send them to InfluxDB. Now, because we're using UDP protocol, if you don't have InfluxDB, the agent will try to send the data anyway. Nothing happens because it's connectionless protocol. So if you would like to collect data from WMI, you can send it by default to Prometheus if they're metrics. And for anything like logs, traces, and so on, you can use InfluxDB like I do for Windows logs. And this config sample has all the information for you to get started without any coding. Now let's look what happened to our container. So you see it got deployed, everything is great, and we need to check if it is running. So what I'm going to do is run docker ps and try to see if I get response from 8050 port. Okay, so I see the metrics. Now, if we refresh Prometheus, you see that these metrics are up, and now the last step would be to inspect what we're collecting. So first of all, let's check what our container name is. It's 9f7. So we can try and see if we have 9f7 here. As you see, we do. And it just takes a little bit of time for metrics to start, but you see they're coming in. So you can see CPU, memory, per threads, and everything appears to be running. So you can start collecting metrics. And now the last step is see if we got anything in logs, because I do have InfluxDB installed. So this is my container 9f7.1. So I already see some logs coming, and you can enable filtering to make sure that you collect errors only and so on. The last important part here is, as you see, we're monitoring performance for the log. So if I'm look at my container, and polling log appears to be not very expensive. So if you do it every 15-20 seconds and polling for the last limited interval, it doesn't appear to be too bad. So this concludes the demo, and I hope you will have time to try it and see how easy it is. Thank you.